This is a work session of the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners. I would mention that those wishing to provide testimony on public hearings or provide oral communication at the designated time must register in advance by calling 503-325-1000. So please do that, or commissioners@co.clatsup.or.us. This is our work session. It's an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion. There is generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings held twice monthly. And there's one of those later today after our work session concludes. So let's begin with board communication. Commissioner Toyoka, do you want to start us out with your board communication?
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Well, I just wanted to say hello to everybody, and I shall defer most of my remarks to the regular session. But I just want to, I had a great meeting with county manager via the phone on Monday, and I think, based on some of the topics we discussed, we'll have some great discussion for the commissioners coming up. But I'll defer most of my comments till the regular session.
Thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. I would note for the commissioners that if you want your comments to be part of the written record of the board, you do need to provide those during the regular session, because the content of commissioner comment generally isn't included in the work session recording, just so you know that. So now, who else is here? Let me look through. Commissioner Bangs, are you available?
I am available. If you can hear me, I don't think I can turn my camera on because I'm having connection issues. But just in regards to liaison reports, I will take a note from what you just stated and save them for board communications in the regular meeting.
Thank you, ma'am. So we are hoping to improve broadband everywhere in Clatsop County, but it's a work in progress. Commissioner Webb, do you have something to add to commissioner communication?
I do not. I just have, I'll make my report in the regular meeting.
Great, thank you very much. All right, is there any concern about our formal agenda for tonight? Does anyone have any additions, deletions, comments? County Council clarified one item for us in an email earlier today, but other than that, as far as I know, there hasn't been much action on the rest of the board agenda. Any objections, any concerns? All right, hearing none, we'll just we'll go forward. NOHA, an update on NOHA, the Northwest Oregon Housing Authority. Who would like to do that?
Well, I am the one who requested this meeting, this presentation, because as I have been reporting to you all, I've been working very closely with NOAA. Excuse the my roommate, and it has been, the past year have been very difficult for the organization. We had to fire the executive director, and we luckily, however, brought in an organization called Quadel, which is a consultancy that works nationwide, specifically with public housing authorities. And we have been very blessed to have them with us. They have their depth of knowledge and experience has been substantial. They have brought on a number of people to actually work for us full time. I don't mean permanently full time, but to get and as you will learn tonight, NOAA's properties represent a variety of services that support housing for low-income people. It's very complicated because they are federal programs. They are even more complicated. And so it's been a real uphill trek. And thanks to our board chair, Nina Reed, who has been exercised great energy in her leadership through this process. And we designated Jim Evans, who was the Quadell project manager, as our interim director. And we have done that. And so we are now sort of one by one going through each program, making sure that we are in compliance, which we had not been previously in all of our programs. So Jim has prepared a presentation that I hope will bring you up to date on the services that NOHA offers. And hopefully with a little bit more knowledge, you can answer any questions or you can have your questions or concerns answered. So I will turn it over to Jim.
Commissioner Webb, thank you for your service on NOHA, and thank you for bringing this to our attention. Mr. Evans, please present.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Again, as Commissioner Webb said, my name is Jim Evans. I am the Interim Executive Director of the Northwest Oregon Housing Authority. I do work for Quadell Consulting and Training, LLC, a firm that is nationwide, but that has specialized in working with affordable housing programs, public and affordable housing programs, tax credit programs, USDA rural development programs, many of the types of programs that are offered here in the 3-county Northwest Oregon service area. Got a very brief presentation, but thought I would just start with an overview by telling you that NOAA does serve the 3 Northwest counties in Oregon, Clatsup County, Columbia County, and Tillamook counties. In the 3-county area, we're serving 2010 families who are receiving assistance. That breaks out to be about 400 or so who are 400 or so units of housing units that NOAA owns, the 405 apartments in 16 communities, along with about 1,000 vouchers that are spread across the 3 counties. And like I say, the 2010 number represents the total number of household members in both programs, the voucher program and the 405 units that we own and operate. And in calendar year 2020, we paid out about just over $7.5 million in housing assistance payments to private owners who are renting to tenants and accepting the Housing Choice Voucher program. As I like to start these discussions with just saying that there are a number of federal housing programs. And NOAA is fortunate in that it has or is offering services under most of these programs. Under HUD, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, they have rental programs, homeownership programs. Those are public housing, housing choice vouchers, and HUD multifamily Section 8 for the rental programs. And they also have the single family programs that are a lot of the homeownership programs and HUD insured mortgages and things that people might apply for as they purchase their own homes. The USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, also offers a rural housing development program, an RD program, and they have a multifamily rental program. NOAA has one RD program in Tillamook County, the Agate Court Apartments in Nehalem. We've got 12 units there. They also have several homeownership programs, none of which are managed or administered by NOAA here. The IRS is also involved in affordable housing. Not normally the agency that you think when you think about affordable housing, but through their tax credit program, they help make rental housing affordable by offering tax credits to investors, and NOAA operates several tax credit properties. They also help make homeownership affordable through the mortgage interest deduction that homeowners would declare on their income tax returns each year. The Department of Defense is not really involved in the rental housing or the homeownership program, but they do offer military housing, the military installation housing for single and unaccompanied military members, along with family members of the people in the military. And the Veterans Administration is also involved in housing. On the rental side, they have a partnership with HUD for what's called Voucher, the Veterans Administration Supportive Housing Program, and NOAA administers that program in coordination with HUD and the VA. On the homeownership side, they have the VA Home Loan Guarantee Program and disability housing grants that are available to disabled veterans to help make their housing units accessible. So those are the globally sort of the high level affordable housing or federal housing programs that are available through the federal government. The types of rental housing that we're most focused on in sort of the line of work that we do is either public housing, housing choice vouchers, and tax credits or other subsidized housing. There are no public housing units in Northwest Oregon in any one of the 3 counties. I left it on here just to say that, you know, if a lot of times affordable housing projects get lumped into the sort of this public housing category, but for a unit to be public housing or a building to be public housing, it was really built or funded by a grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And then it's operated as affordable under a series of rules that HUD has created. There is no public housing, as I said before, that has been built in Northwest Oregon. So none of our 3 counties, nothing in Clatsup County. But we do have right around 1,000 housing choice vouchers that are operated in our 3 county area. Those units are operated by a housing authority, but they leverage the market by going out to private owners. And private landlords make their houses available to low-income families that have a voucher. And a voucher is essentially a guarantee or a check that says that as long as the family remains income eligible and in compliance with the program, that the housing authority, NOAA, will pay a subsidy to the owner on behalf of that family throughout their tenancy. And families are allowed to rent single family homes, duplexes, apartments, mobile homes. There's any form of housing is acceptable under the Housing Choice Voucher program. There are some excluded housing types like college dorms, prison cells. Not allowed to subsidize those, but for the most part, if it's a traditional residential living facility, we can do a housing choice voucher there. The other type of housing assistance is tax credits, and the ownership in tax credits may or may not include a housing authority. In order to be eligible for a tax credit house or apartment, the family that's applying has to meet certain income requirements. So, you know, when we talk about affordable housing and when we talk about the tax credit program, the tax credit program is really designed to be affordable to families that fall somewhere between usually about 40 and 60, 40 to 80% of the area median income. So these are generally our working poor families, people that are working at minimum wage, maybe 1 or 2 low income earners within a household. So those are the programs that you say receive that tax credit. And in order to qualify for that, because there's no subsidy to the family there, that it's just a discounted rent, because the investor was able to provide a sufficient amount of funds to be able to build the building and then keep the rent at a slightly lower or below market rate or cost. So what you're probably most interested in is knowing or understanding what programs NOAA operates. And in our Housing Choice Voucher program, they have a number of varieties of Housing Choice Vouchers. These are sort of special fundings that are available, but we have the tenant-based assistance program. That's the largest and the most traditional vouchers issued to a family. They go out, find a place, rent through a private owner, and receive assistance. They sat on a waiting list for usually between 1 to 5 years because we have more need than we have ability to serve that need. We've also opted to project-base some of our vouchers. This means that we've designated certain vouchers that will be assigned to particular apartment buildings or communities to be able to maintain the affordability in some of the more desirable or preferred neighborhoods or areas where we can guarantee for a 10 to 20 year period that unit will remain affordable and available to people that qualify for the Housing Choice Voucher program. We operate a family self-sufficiency program. Family self-sufficiency came about in the early 90s just by way of HUD Secretary Jack Kemp. He was a politician, but before that he was a quarterback. He went into politics, but family self-sufficiency was one of his programs. I had the opportunity to meet Jack several times. He was actually one of the investors in Quadell for a while, so we were able to, talk and understand where his passion is. And family self-sufficiency is one of those programs that I was hired back in 1998, I think, no, 92. And it was right around the same time that the family self-sufficiency program was launching. It's really a program that's designed to help families become self-sufficient, and use the voucher program as a tool to really help build up skills and capabilities. And it's the hand up, not the hand out kind of model. And it helps families achieve self-sufficiency that can ultimately lead to homeownership or other types of, other forms of self-sufficiency. We operate a small homeownership program. Families are allowed to use their voucher to actually purchase a home. We don't cover the mortgage for the entire, like a 30-year period. The expectation is that, that they get a relatively small subsidy and it goes down year over year. And after several years, they're able to support and pay their mortgage on their own. But it's another step towards self-sufficiency. We have the Veterans Administration Supportive Housing Program. That's a partnership between HUD and the VA, where we work with veterans and their counselors to help them disabled veterans get into affordable housing. We have a family unification program. This program is largely designed for families, usually women, but it could be women or men, but families that have had their kids either taken from them through the Child Protective Services type programs, or at risk of losing their children because they don't have adequate housing. And when adequate housing is the only barrier to a family either getting their kids returned to them or the potential of losing their children, these vouchers can be used for those purposes. We have a mainstream program which serves families with disabilities, individuals or families that are disabled, and it helps them move from institutional or group home settings into independent living opportunities. That program comes with case management, as does the VASHA and the family unification programs. And those supportive services are provided by outside agencies. And then we have a program for the non-elderly disabled. We have 3 HUD multifamily housing contracts. That's at Alder Court, Owens Adair, and Sand Hill Apartments. and of particular interest for this group. All three of those are in Clatsop County. We operate low-income housing tax credits at Champion Park Apartments, Columbia Park Apartments, and the Gable Park Apartments. Champion is located in Tillamook County, and Columbia and Gable Park are both in Columbia County. And if I didn't say it right, Champion is in Tillamook County. We also have 3 developments that are in process of being built. The Holden Creek property in Tillamook is coming online right now. That's a 60-unit development, and we've gotten temporary certificates of occupancy on about 40 of the 60 or so units, and families are starting to move into that property. We have the Trillium House at Chelsea Gardens in Clatsop County in Warrenton that we're hoping to do groundbreaking right around mid-October. And then we have 238 Gable, which is a 238 unit property that's being developed in Columbia County in St. Helens that will be also breaking ground sometime this fall, probably September or October. We have our 12-unit USDA Econi Court property in Nehalem. And then we also have 5 market rate rental programs, the Clatsop Shores, Gable Road. Clatsop Shores is a 42-unit property in Seaside. Gable Road is a 3-unit property that's immediately adjacent to the Columbia Park Apartments. We actually purchased that building really with the intent of probably at some point tearing it down, but it's immediately adjacent to Columbia Park. And we thought that we might be able to expand or build a phase 2 at Columbia Park at some point. And we wanted to have the land. And since there was already housing units on the site, we continued to make them affordable rentals while we figure out our development plans for that site. Pine Court Apartments in Tillamook is a 4-unit building. We have the Tillicum Apartments in Warrenton. That is 2 4-plex buildings on Southeast Willow Drive. And then we also have the Jerry Woodward Senior Center in Tillamook, which is a 10-unit elderly building, building for participants or residents that are elderly. So those are our programs. And this slide here just sort of breaks them out by county and program type. Sort of show you that in Clatsop County, we have 220 of our NOAA-owned properties out of and that includes the 40 units that are under development at Chelsea Gardens, that 220. So we're really at about 180 right now. We have say the 28 tax credit units at Columbia Park and 32 units at Gable Park in Columbia County, along with the 3 Gable Road units. And I referred to this other property as 238 Gable, but the developer working with the community has just come up with a name for that property this past week, and I didn't update my slide on the other page. But it's going to be called Broadleaf Arbor, a gathering place, which will have 230, it says 239 here. There's going to be a manager's unit as well. So there'll be 238 apartments for affordable housing, and then 1 manager's unit. In Tillamook, we have 130 units at Champion Park, 12 at Econi Court, 4 at Pine Court, 10 at Jerry Woodward, and the 60 units at Holden Creek, like say, that are just coming out of development for 216 total units in Tillamook. So I've sort of done a lot of talking at this point. I'm happy to take any questions as you have them, or I can sort of keep plowing through.
Thank you very much. I see that Commissioner Thompson has her hand up.
Oh,
Thank you.
and
Glad to have you here, Mr. Chair. So I was curious about permanent supportive housing for mentally ill folk. I don't see those called out in your portfolio. Are they there and I'm just missing them?
So we do have some units that have been set aside or designated for permanent supportive housing, but we do not have any one property that's been designated as permanent supportive housing.
Probably a better way to go. Thank you. Do you have a number on that?
I can get it for you. I know that at the Chelsea Gardens property, I think we're setting aside either 6 or 8 units for permanent supportive housing, and I'd have to go through the others to get that number for you. But it's out of the 410 units, 405 units that NOAA owns and operates. It's probably somewhere in the 30 to 40 total units. So, 8 to 10% of the portfolio.
Thank you. That's a good idea, because I'm concerned about people who don't have housing, and the number we have now, the number we might anticipate getting given developments in that arena in the metropolitan area. And I wonder how prepared we are. Well, it's a related but distinct question.
I will work on getting an exact number and get that back to you to let you know exactly how many we have and where they are, and which ones are in development, which ones are in place right now.
Thank you. Very complete report.
Well,
Any additional
Jim, excuse
Any additional
me.
questions for Mr. Evans? Yes, Mr. Webb.
Just have a comment on, you should also maybe talk about Agate House. Which
so yeah, Agate House falls under our voucher program. And the Agate House in Astoria is a 4-unit building that's owned by Gobi. And it is rented by families that qualify for a voucher. And it is a facility, it sort of combines multiple issues, but the heads of household that are there are in some form of a recovery, whether it's addiction or other sort of life challenge, but they've also been at risk or had their children removed from their care, at least temporarily, but they get into that unit. They receive 2 years of supportive housing with intensive case management, working daily with case managers. And at the end of the 2 years, the family's there so that we can sort of have a continuous cycle of families going in and out of those properties. They are eligible to be issued a tenant-based voucher to be able to go and live independently, possibly continuing with the supportive services that Clatsup Behavioral Health is providing to them. But they move out of that unit so that another family can move in, and again, continue to receive the intensive services, work on getting well, stabilized and in place so that they can then live independently with lesser and lesser reliance upon supportive services. So, any other questions?
I don't see any hands. Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Evans. I appreciate the presentation very much.
Unless you're giving me the hook, I've got a couple more slides that I can talk to you about.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
If you're ready to move on. Okay.
No, that's great.
Okay. So thought I would provide to you just a little bit of information about our Housing Choice Voucher Program. Again, that's about 1,000 units. And there are 316 Housing Choice Voucher units in Clatsop County. We largely serve families with 1 or 2 bedroom needs. So these are smaller families. Our average rent to owner, the amount of rent that an owner charges on average is about $796 a month. And of that, NOAA is providing about $541 a month in rental assistance to the owner, and the family is contributing about $255 a month. As sort of extrapolates out to just over 80,000 that the tenants are paying toward their rent and contributing to their owner and ultimately to the community, along with $170,875 that is being contributed by the Housing Authority into the community for a grand monthly total of just over $250,000. And when you look at sort of the demographics of the families that we're serving, they have total monthly income of about $427,000. Their average monthly income is about $1,300. That $427,000 sounds pretty impressive until you divide it by 316. And you find out that their average monthly income is only about $1,350 a month, which again annualizes to just over $16,000 per year. And again, the majority of our families are living in 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, and we've got a few families in 3s or 4s. Did this for each one of the 3 counties. I'm presuming that your focus or interest is not as much on Columbia County or Tillamook, but the rents, just by way of comparison, are higher in Columbia County, and we have 529 of our families living in Columbia County, and the amount of housing assistance is also slightly greater in Columbia County, and that's really attributable to the higher incomes or the higher rent charges for Columbia County. And conversely, in Tillamook County, the incomes for the families are a little bit lower, but still, I say, quite low for the household average, and the rents are a little bit more affordable in Tillamook. When you look at all 3 counties together, again, the average works out to be about $900 a month in rent to the owners, and they're collecting about $887,000 a month. And our families, the 984 families that are receiving assistance, bring home just over $1.3 million per month, which again is an average income right at the Clatsup County average of $16,000 per year. So, those are the sort of the demographics of our voucher program and the families receiving assistance. When we look at our waiting list, we have we have more than 1 person waiting for every unit that we have currently available. We have 484 people on the Clatsup County waiting list, that live in Clatsup County that are on the NOAA waiting list. The vast majority, 79%, have incomes that are between 0 and 30% of the area median. And again, I think that that's pretty representative in the data for the families that we're serving, that they are what HUD calls extremely low income or ELI families. Then we have about 18% that are in the 30 to 50% range, and only 3% that are in the 50 to 80% range. So our program and the applicants that we have to the program are certainly the poorest of the poor in our community, and the ones that have the greatest housing need. When you look at the family types, and these do not add up, just if there's anybody there trying to total this to get to 484, you're never going to get there, because sometimes a household might have more than 1 characteristic. So that one confused me at first when I got this report and I was trying to make it all work. So I'll spare you the agony, but that was about 2 hours of my time the other day. So 79 families have children. 30 are what are called near elderly, and the HUD definition of near elderly is they're 50 or older. 164 are what are called elderly, and HUD defines elderly as 62 or older. 345 are single occupancy households, just one person. And 131 are families that identify as having a disability. I should also say about all of these stats is that these are self-declared. None of that has been verified. It's what a family has put on a preliminary application and what we've used for placing them on a waiting list. When they get to the top of the waiting list, everything that they've claimed gets verified. So there could be some slight changes, but this is the family declared information for our waiting list data. It's not very different in Columbia County. The 477 families on the waiting list, and the vast majority, 93% of them, are in that 0 to 30% of adjusted monthly income, or area median income rather, and the extremely low income families. And in Tillamook County, 100% of the applicants, a smaller applicant pool, but 100% of them are in the 0 to 30 or extremely low income range. And again, the vast majority of the applicants to our program are single person households. And this just sort of takes all three all three population groups and combines the data to show that we've got about 88% extremely low income, 10% that are very low income, or between 30 and 50, and out of 1,134 families, 824 are single person households, and 278 are people that identify as having a disability. So, and only 195 families that identify with having children in their household. So any questions on our waiting list demographics? I will move on then to our properties. I mentioned before that we own and operate about 405 apartment units throughout 16 buildings. We've just completed a very comprehensive and thorough capital needs assessment. Commissioner Webb was privy to countless meetings and hours and hours and hours of review of data related to this. But we operate about 413,438 square feet of residential buildings, residential apartment units. The average age of our buildings is about 35 years old. The replacement value on our properties is just over $80 million. And that's only looking at replacing the buildings. It does not include the land. We currently have a deferred maintenance backlog of just over $11 million, and our 30-year capital need is $72 million, almost $73 million. When we look at our current capital needs, 17% of those current needs are mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, or the MEP is the acronym that's used there. And over 92% of our deferred backlog is classified as high priority. And those are things like critical electrical systems, failing roof systems, mold, insufficient site lighting, and some failed security cameras, which I'm happy to report the failed security cameras have been in the process of being fixed. And hopefully we'll have all of that done probably over the next 2 to 3 months. We'll have security cameras at our sites that have been updated, upgraded, or improved. This deferred backlog of $11 million this year, if we look at it over a 5-year period, that's really closer to about 26 million. And NOAA currently has just under about $350,000 to $400,000 in replacement reserves. So one of the things that we're going to have to do, and we've got strategic planning coming up next Friday with our commissioners, is really start strategizing how is it that we go about raising the money that's going to be necessary to be able to continue to maintain and take care of, our 413,000 square feet of residential apartment living, and do that in a way that we can continue to keep it affordable. So we've got some pretty big and hefty challenges in front of us to try and make sure that these units remain viable. As an organization, I think NOAA wants to be seen as one of the premier property management and ownership entities in the county. We don't want to be lumped in with slumlords or the poorly managed and poorly maintained properties. But in order to operate programs as affordable, we aren't able to command the same levels of rent that other for-profit or market rate properties might be able to get. So we've got a very careful dance and a balancing act that we have to do in order to like I say, to be a responsible owner, make sure that the properties are safe and well maintained, that our residents are taken care of, and that we don't let these buildings deteriorate in a way that would be detrimental to the affordability of the community. Provided in this chart here, just a quick summary of the 1 year and 5 year capital needs by property, so that you can see what each property is, what its replacement value is, how we got to that $80 million number, what the 1 year capital need is, and what the 5 year need is. Of probably particular interest to Clatsup County, our Alder Court property in Warrenton is actually in pretty good shape for this current year, but we need to really be planning for what we need to do over the next 5 years to make sure that we have that $215,000 available to repair plumbing or upgrade electric or replace the roof or replace windows and update hot water heaters and all of those kinds of things that have to be done with the management and maintenance of our apartment communities. Champion Park in Tillamook is the one that has the greatest capital need. It's actually just coming out of its mandatory 15-year compliance period on the tax credit program. And we're working right now with the developer or with the investor on that property to figure out how we get them to pay for some or many of these repairs that are going to be needed to make this property continue to be viable. Our Clatsup Shores property is one of our market rate properties. It's not in the tax credit program or not tied to any other government programs right now, but it has a little more than $750,000 worth of immediate repairs that need to be made, and just over $2 million over the next 5 years. We're looking at ways to raise revenue there. Owens Adair, probably our historic property in downtown Astoria. We've got just over $5 million worth of renovations and repairs that are needed there over the next 5 years. We need to, we've entered into a co-developer agreement because we think that it might be appropriate to apply for historic tax credits for the Owens Adair, do some of the historic renovations and updates that are needed there, generate some money to be able to do that through investors. And our Sandhill and Tillicum properties are also in pretty good shape for this year, but over the next 5 years have some roof systems and hot water heaters and heating systems that are going to need to be updated and replaced or repaired, so that they're sort of coming to the end of those life cycles. Just a quick recap of those at a really high level for you. In Clatsop County, we've got $33 million $801,300 in assets, the cost to replace those today. We've got 3.2 million in one-year capital needs and just over 10 million in five-year capital needs. So the Clatsup County represents a little more than a quarter of our entire capital need over the next year or so, and about a third for the 5-year period. So that's sort of the end of my official presentation, but happy to take any questions or provide additional input on this if you have any questions.
Do you have any questions? I'm not seeing any. I just really appreciate this very thorough report, Director Evans. It was good to see this all kind of laid out, and so I could kind of grasp all of the projects that are going on in all 3 counties. I think it was good to have that perspective about what's going on in other counties as well. So thank you for including all of that. And I don't see any other questions. We'll go ahead and move on to our next item. So thank you very much for that presentation. We'll move to agenda item 2, which is the Planning Commission roles and responsibilities and draft revisions to Planning Commission bylaws. And just a reminder, so this is a work session, opportunity for board members to discuss the issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend the work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there's generally no opportunity for public comment. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to our Director Henriksen.
Good evening, Commissioners. Gail Henriksen, Community Development Director. I just want to start out this evening by talking about how this came to be on your agenda. And the materials that are included in your agenda package this evening are the result of discussions that have taken place in work sessions over April and May, and in some one-on-one meetings that we've had with board members and the county manager as well. And these are draft materials. These are a starting point for discussions that are going to continue for some time, including the joint meeting you're going to have with the Planning Commission on July 20th. So as Chair Quila just stated, this is really just an opportunity for the board this evening to go over this first draft, which are starting points to begin the discussion. And we want to make sure in presenting this material, part of the reason we do that is we want to make sure that we've correctly heard what you've been saying to us and that we've accurately acted upon the discussions that you've had. And so ultimately, any draft that is going to come forward to you and that you may choose to adopt or approve would be something that is crafted through input over a series of many meetings that comes not only from the board and the Planning Commission, but also from the public as well. So I just wanted to preface my presentation with that this evening. One of the things that we understood as staff was that the board was requesting some sort of statement of roles and responsibilities for the Planning Commission and to help provide a little bit more structure to the meetings and the work program that the commission does. So in drafting these bullet points that are on that statement, which is very brief, we as staff pulled information from the Oregon Planning Commissioner's Handbook, which is published by the Department of Land Conservation and Development. And to make sure that what we were putting into that statement was going to be consistent with our bylaws, we did also take a look at the bylaws as well. And that was something that staff had noted that we would be looking at along with training opportunities and other activities associated with the Planning Commission, including the work program we'll look at later this evening. So we pulled together some samples from other areas throughout the state. We looked at Wasco County, Washington County, Lincoln City, Milwaukee, Oregon City, and a bunch of others in terms of Planning Commission bylaws, and pulled out pieces and parts from each one of those that were either missing from the bylaws that as they currently exist in Clatsop County, or that seemed like things that should be added, or maybe fleshed out things that were already in our existing bylaws. So we didn't pull anything extraordinary from them, and I'll note some of the changes that we did pull from those other documents. We did also incorporate concepts from the Oregon Planning Commissioners Handbook, as I discussed earlier, but also from the Clatsup County board rules and your ground rules, so that everything is kind of working in coordination and is consistent with the work that everybody is doing in different areas in the county. So some of the notable revisions that we put into this first draft of the bylaw revisions included term limits, which would limit planning commissioner terms to 2 full terms or 10 years, which each commissioner term right now is 4 years. And so if you had someone who maybe filled another position, and then they would have still 2 full year terms after that. And that actually came out of the City of Milwaukee Planning Commission bylaws. We did also add in additional detail to help clarify the responsibilities of the chair and the vice chair and flesh those out a bit. And then we took those draft bullet points from the Statement of Roles and Responsibilities and also put that into the bylaw so that the 2 documents were mimicking the same language in each one. We also added some language that constitutes what establishes a quorum. And we did have some instances where we had a lot of discussion about that, because it's not very clearly worded, and this would make it much clearer when we have a quorum. And it would also add some language that specifies what happens if you don't have a quorum and what the procedure would be for dealing with that. We also, taking language out of our current code and also from the planning handbook that the state produces, filled in the section of conflict of interest to help clarify what exactly would constitute a conflict of interest and what parties in a relationship, business relationship, or familial relationship would constitute a conflict of interest when you have a case coming before you that might include some of those parties. And then our code and the Planning Commissioner Handbook also discuss this concept of bias, and it's slightly different from conflict of interest, but it has to do with the perception or the actual bias of a member of a committee who may be so pre-prejudiced to the facts of the case that they simply cannot make an impartial decision based on the actual code. And so since that's already included in our code and is one of the recommended areas in the state planning handbook, we also included that as well. And the other thing that we did is we removed the variance cases from the scope of the Planning Commission purview. Right now, all of those cases are handled by our hearings officer, so it's not anything that the Planning Commission handles at this point right now. So to make that consistent with our practices, we recommended striking that language as well. Again, I really just want to emphasize that this is our first draft, our first go around, and we are very happy, of course, as staff to always move in the direction that the board is looking for. And if we've misunderstood something or we need to clarify something, remove something, add something, we're always happy to do that. And with that, I'm going to conclude my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Any questions for our Community Development Director? Commissioner Bangs has a question.
Not really a question, but a comment. I was pleased to see such common sense rules and responsibilities basically outlined by staff at the request of the Board of Commissioners. You addressed attendance and decorum and respect and following Oregon state rules and laws in conjunction with the goals of the county governing body. And so basically you outlined similar expectations of a traditional job, in my personal opinion. Work as a team for a common goal, and that goal is economic success, health, and well-being of our county. I will have to note, I was saddened by a few emails that I saw in regards to this plan, because I felt this was very much like a contract that you would sign when you enter a new job or a new position. And so I was saddened to see, I would say, open malice in some of those emails. And it was in a response to our efforts as a Board of Commissioners to unify with the Planning Commission, to create an atmosphere where we can move forward and do good work. And I really hope that as we continue to move forward and develop these rules and responsibilities for our Planning Commission, that we can come to an agreement on how to work with each other and work with each other respectfully, with the idea that it's not one for oneself, but it's all for one. It's all of us working together, moving one direction for the success and well-being of our community. And so I just hope that we can continue moving forward. I was really pleased with staff's input in regarding this, and I was also very pleased to see that staff looked at so many different rules and responsibilities of other planning commissions across the state. So thank you, Gal. It was a very good effort by staff. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Banks. Commissioner Thompson has her hand up.
Thank you, Chair Quila. I would echo Commissioner Banks' praise of staff. We voted unanimously as a board to do this. I think the staff went to great lengths to listen to what each commissioner had to say and to put it out there before us. I think I'm the only current county commissioner who's actually served on the Clatsup County Planning Commission, which I did before becoming a county commissioner. Knowing that there was some consternation on the part of some people from the emails we received, I reached out to Bruce Francis, who spent 30 years providing public service in Clatsop County on Planning Commission issues as its chair for much of that time. He said, it's very clear that the Planning Commission serves at the pleasure of and according to the standards set by the County Board of Commissioners. So from his historical perspective and his really selfless public service, he reminded me that the law is what is to be served. It isn't individual perspective or, I want to say, ego. It is the law that we all serve in our devotion to the people and this place. So I appreciate the effort that was put forward by everyone who served, past and present, and will serve in the future on the County Planning Commission or any other body associated with Clatsop County government. We're here doing this because we love the people and the place. The challenge is, of course, how to love each other as we work out our differences of opinion and our differing perspectives. And I think that what the county manager excels in doing is in establishing a very methodical, very clear, very fair public process that allows everybody to be heard. And I do want to see, let me just call it decorum, because that's what it says in our board rules, that affection and respect so that we can go forward and build community in a very positive way that is also legal. So good job, staff, and thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. I see we're right up against the hour here. If we don't have any other comment, I would like to thank Community Development Director and staff for their work on this. Well done. And we'll go ahead and adjourn the work session and move right into our regular session. And Teresa, are we ready to go? Yep.
Yes.
Okay. We'll start the meeting of the Board of Commissioners as the governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts for which this body so acts, and we're now meeting in regular session. Teresa, can we take the roll call?
Commissioner Banks?
Here.
Commissioner Thompson?
I'm here.
Commissioner Webb?
Here.
Commissioner Toyoka? Chair
He's here.
Kreluk?
Here. And I know Commissioner Toyoka is just trying to get his, did he respond? Just can't hear you, John. Commissioner Toyoka, we can't hear you. He's here visually.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and move into the next item, which is the agenda approval. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Thompson would move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll move right into the public health update. And our interim health director, Margot Lalich, is here to present.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, commissioners. So public health update. I want to first let you know that the equity plan was submitted to the state. Feeling a little bit angst because they had asked that it be reformatted a little bit. Of course, they're going to have some comments. And then I just got an email that there's a period missing. So Commissioner Quayle, we might be rerouting it again. And as we all know, we find edits and typos elsewhere, but you know, my esteemed colleagues have worked really hard in this the last 2 weeks, and we're a little wary. So anyways, but I'm very proud of the content, and that's what's most important. So I believe you received a copy today. Feel free to let me know if you find any edits as well. But anyways, it has been submitted, and we are in a low risk category anyways right now. And what we're all working towards is supporting the state getting to 70%, because then it's mutually beneficial. I wanted to let you know that we are in transition in terms of some roles and responsibilities. This was anticipated, and we very carefully and thoughtfully planned for this. So just to give you a sense of how the vaccine task force is currently operating going forward. Chris Lehman, who has been the incident commander, of course, will continue serving on the vaccine task force and be my very close colleague with this work, but he's focusing and partnering more now with Lisa McLean, our immunization coordinator, and they're really focusing on the vaccine component of the whole vaccination campaign and COVID response. Vincent Arts has transitioned over to the Sheriff's Department, so he is no longer actively on the vaccine task force. The remainder of the members remain intact and are continuing in their current roles and responsibilities. We are only meeting twice a week now, not Monday through Friday, and I think that's very appropriate considering the time of year where we are with the vaccination campaign, our cases, and the fact that we are vaccinating. We're having regular clinics through the month of June on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and tomorrow is our last Saturday clinic, and it's our second dose Pfizer clinic for South County. We are continuing and ramping up our outreach activities, all those little pop-up clinics that you've heard me talk about, and we have one next Wednesday in Cannon Beach. We're working on another one with CCA on the 30th, and then pretty much taking vaccines wherever we go for our routine outreach activities. So very pleased about that, and happy to say that last night I think there were close to 30 walk-in members of the community who were receiving their first dose. I most importantly right now really want to extend a thank you to Chris Lehman. I don't think I need to tell you how much he's done and his impeccable leadership. It's just been such a pleasure to work with him, to continue to work with him. But his leadership has really guided this community, been a model for the task force as a whole, and I want to extend great gratitude to him. And also to Vincent for his service. I think he's done 200, maybe close to 300 situation stat reports. That's a lot of work, and paying attention to the details of that report and making sure that there's consistency and accuracy, as well as stepping into the site lead role, which I asked him to do when I came on board, and he did it with excellence and integrity, bringing his expertise forward. And to let you know about the SIT-STAT report, that is another update. We met this morning, Tom, myself, Hannah, and Vincent, and we are not going to be publishing that daily anymore. It's not necessary because so much data is available on the county website, through social media, on the OHA dashboards. We will be publishing it once a week. On Mondays, it will be a retrospective, and it won't be as long anymore. It's not necessary, so it'll be about 1.5 pages, and we're refining some of the data we'll be including. Of course, if there's something more you'd like to see in it, you could let us know, but I think this is very appropriate. And all the other standing meetings that we're having, for example, with the superintendents and others, and even the state is doing this as well. Some of the meetings are now going to every 2 weeks instead of every week. And I think that's good news. We're moving from response into recovery, and that's where our focus is at this time. That's it. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, we have a hand up from Commissioner Banks.
Just a quick question. Have you had any further information or, thought or research that has been released regarding a potential booster in our future?
No, and that was a question asked last evening on our community engagement event that was really targeted for the schools. No, I think they're just still monitoring, doing both active and passive surveillance to determine the efficacy of the vaccine, and really it's looking at antibodies. And so I don't think we'll know much on that until probably late summer or early fall. And so I think just a follow-up to that, we've stood up robust operations in a couple different sites, and we're using some of the resources and funding we're getting to actually enhance our capacity to respond to future events. But we're not disassembling or taking down any of our existing operations. Everything will remain intact. And prepared to stand up at any point in time if needed. And my recommendation is we continue with the status quo through the fall and into the winter, because we don't know what next winter is going to be like now with people vaccinated, right? Still more to come.
And a quick follow-up, because thank you so much for all of that information. Just curious, how would you classify where we are in regards to our vaccine? Is the vaccine like 100% completely available to anyone who wants it at any point in time? We're fully, I don't know what the best word is to describe it, but we've hit the mark.
Yes, we have a lot of vaccine. We have plenty of vaccine available in the county. Public health has all 3 vaccines. Not every place has all 3 vaccines because of storage or populations they're serving, but it's not defaulting just to public health now. Individuals can get vaccinated in their primary care homes, at the hospitals, at pharmacies, and again, we have a network, so we're sharing that information, and every week OHA sends us a report of all the registered vaccine providers. We're also able to see how much vaccine they're receiving and ordering. So there's plenty of vaccine.
Such good news. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Webb.
Yeah, I was actually at a CCO meeting last night, at which they did a lot of reporting as well. The issue came up about people who are in their homes. Do we have anything that we could respond to if I say, I'm a retired farmer in Brownsmead, but I don't have any transportation? Is there someone who would come and give me a shot in my home?
Absolutely, and I know that I've shared this a few times in the past. So we are doing targeted outreach to the homebound population. Well, now we don't have the vaccine survey anymore, but we provided the opportunity for individuals to self-identify as being homebound and also having transportation barriers. Sunset Empire Transportation District, because some who are homebound actually want to get out. It's the transportation. So Sunset Empire Transportation is providing door-to-door, and they're still doing that. Additionally, what we've done is we've compiled a list of those individuals, and the PIC has provided support for this, the communication center, because they're doing follow-up phone calls. And then we batch those individuals because travel takes time and we want to be prudent with our resources. And also, if we open up a vial of vaccine, we want to be able to use all the doses before we can't use it anymore within that given time period. So yes, we are definitely doing outreach to the homebound.
The other thing that was mentioned last night was that, and I don't know what the source was, but apparently there has been a survey done of the CCO population, you know, which is OHP members, that gave the percentage of different populations who have been vaccinated, and that the numbers among the Hispanic population are lower than they are. And they're apparently doing quite an extensive outreach. Are you aware of all of that, Margot?
I am very aware, and why it looks like my eyes are moving around is because I'm pulling up the most recent, well, actually this isn't the most recent report, but every week Columbia Pacific CCO sends out a vaccine weekly update. And what they do is they look at their members, and they break it down by behavioral health, mental health, disability, homebound, ethnicity, race to the best of their ability. They provide that information to us. And also what we did probably 2 months ago is we gave the CCO access to our scheduling system. So the staff that they assign to do outreach and call all of their members about getting vaccinated, instead of having to relay it to us, they can actually go in, use our system and schedule people. And now it's just web-based, so they can go in and schedule people and then also coordinate that transportation. So we've been working very closely throughout the vaccination campaign with them. And their report's excellent. It's very helpful.
Good, good. One of the things that they said that I found fascinating was that they have found that the most effective way for them to reach their clients is through text messaging. And I think that since we talk so much about, oh, well, maybe we should do this and maybe we should do that, that I thought that was interesting, that they found that the most effective way.
No, we've been doing that in public health for a while, and other entities are as well. It's an efficient way to reach out to people.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd just like to follow up on that. I know that the equity plan, the 7 pages, speaks to a lot of this outreach, and that really was a focus and a priority for Director Lalich when she came on board. I really appreciate all the efforts of the health department to try to go out and remove barriers of access for folks in our community to get to the vaccine. And so it's really well done, very thorough effort. And I also want to echo the comments about Chris Lehman. I have the pleasure of with him at Columbia Memorial Hospital. He is just a tremendous leader, so detail oriented, and just so smart. And I think we really benefited from having him lead the group over the last few months, but this is the time to transition. And thank goodness we have Director Lalich leading the group now, doing a fantastic job. And Vincent as well. Vincent has just been here through all of the highs and lows over the last, ever since the pandemic started. And you know, putting out those sit reps is just one thing. He does so much more, and has been the site lead at a lot of the clinics. Just really appreciate all of his efforts over the last year and a half, and very thankful for his participation in the task force. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much, Director Lalish. Appreciate that.
All right, thank you so much. Have a good evening.
You too. We'll move on to business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 2-minute presentation about any item on the agenda, except for public hearings, or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public who have registered to speak?
Yes.
Okay, if you've registered to speak, please wait till your name is called, then give your name and address for the record, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak. Who's first?
William Gaylord.
Hello, that's me.
Okay.
I want to speak to, I learned this morning that there is on your work session agenda for June 15th.
William, can you give your name and address? Can you give your address for the record, just so we have that?
Yeah, of course. I'm Bill Gaylord. My address is 80296 Pacific Road, Arch Cape. And that is three blocks north on the same road as the Asbury Creek Bridge. And I want to speak to the Asbury Creek Bridge project, which I learned about this morning. I didn't know there was such a project in the offing, but I'm pleased to hear that there is. And I want to express some concerns about what might be the wrong way to go and what I think is the right way to go. The bridge across sometimes Asbury Creek, some people call it Shark Creek, they're combined at some point. Across that body of water has been closed since the late 90s with no ill effects to anything important in terms of vehicle traffic. It has been opened all that time to pedestrian and bicycle traffic because the problem that closed it was a structural engineering problem, and it still supports pedestrians and bicycles. It is, getting worse and holier, and probably someday not going to be good enough for pedestrians. You have 4 options presented to you, as I understand it, and the one of them that makes any sense to me, and I will suggest to anybody that's a resident of Arch Cape, is to replace the bridge with a pedestrian bicycle bridge, not a vehicle bridge. If you can't find your way to that solution and do that, then leave it as it is. We do not want a vehicle bridge open there, and we do not need one. It has been just fine. There have been no emergencies calling for any vehicles to cross that bridge. It is easy. Every location in Arch Cape on this side of Highway 101 is easily accessible by other roads, and there have been just no difficulties not being able to get a vehicle across that bridge. It is a vital connection for the pedestrian traffic in Arch Cape, and I want to impress upon you that it is the only connection from North Arch Cape to South Arch Cape, or the sections of the village. The beach is the only other choice. I mean, you could say that Highway 101 is our pedestrian solution, but that's a lousy solution. And particularly parallel to where that bridge is, it is a very precarious place to be walking along Highway 101. It's a steep drop off. It's a narrow berm on the side of the highway, and not a good solution. The bridge has served very well, and a replacement pedestrian bridge would continue to serve well. Half the year at least, the beach is not an accessible connection between the north and south parts of Arch Cape. And Arch Cape Creek in flood in the middle of the winter would be dangerous to cross. Parts of the year it would just be, you'd get really wet. There are times when you can walk the beach there and not have a problem. But the bridge is the reliable pedestrian route. And the pedestrian route on Pacific Road that uses the bridge is the route that people take who walk every day of the year with their dogs and their kids when you can't be on the beach because of the tide or because of the storms or because of what have you on the beach. So Pacific Road really is the vital connection between north and south sections of Arch Cape. That bridge as a pedestrian bridge is essential for, I think, a very valuable part of the community life here. And I doubt you would get a lot of opposition. Yeah, hello.
Yeah, thank you for your comments.
You're welcome. I hope that helps.
Thank you, William.
I have Pat O'Grady.
And can I ask callers 4 and caller 3? I see that we have a couple people that haven't muted their phones. If they could mute their phones, please, I'd appreciate it. And then Pat.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you. Pat O'Grady, 90455 Peter Johnson Road, Astoria, Oregon. I have looked over the public works facility several times and it is in good shape to work out of, but it's been lacking maintenance through the years. Most of the people working there would like it to stay there. Repair stalls are set up for good maintenance on the equipment. To relocate this facility is not in the best interest of the public. The county cannot take care of a disaster. They would have to sublet out any major road or bridge repair. The county moves the public workshop. I understand the county will okay low-income housing in the area of the public works. If the excuse to relocate public works is because of a tsunami, why is the county allowing housing? The millions of dollars the county has saved since 2016 for public works should go back to the taxpayer or lower the charge per thousand. Number 2 item, why is the county maintaining Youngs River Falls Park? That's the city of Astoria only. Those are my questions, and thank everybody for all their time and help and a lot of hard work everybody has done there. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you. That's all for the comments at this time.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on in the agenda to the consent calendar.
Mr. Chair, move adoption.
Okay,
Well, I just figure you're ready, but maybe I'm too soon, huh?
go ahead.
Okay, move adoption of the consent calendar.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt the consent calendar as presented. Any discussion on the consent calendar? Okay, not seeing any, we'll go ahead and move to adopt the consent calendar. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next is Commissioner Liaison reports, and we'll start with Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, sir. Well, I mentioned last time that I was concerned about pedestrian traffic and danger on Highway 101 from people parking alongside. So I reached out to Nan Devlin, and she told me that she talks about it probably 3 times every day. She's concerned with short sands. She's been working with ODOT and state parks and many of her partners to try and get the short sands situation on a ODOT trip check so it shows up. The fly in the ointment is that there isn't cell coverage. So Verizon is one option that was mentioned. I reached out to Joe Fresnel and he and Nan are talking. Joe has some other ideas. I asked them to consider expanding their area of concern all the way north because Hug Point State Park and Arcadia Beach State Park also present extremely hazardous situations. I mean, I could talk to you because I'm working on fire and I'm working on water and I'm working on modular housing and all that sort of thing. But really the life and death safety of visitors to our area is a primary concern to me. I'd also secondly like to point out that you got a good geography lesson tonight from our Arch Cape community member, Bill, and I appreciate that he did that. Everything that I know about that situation, because it's not my neighborhood and I don't observe who's walking their dogs and their children every day, supports what he said. And having checked with the fire chief and other fire board members in that area, it seems like that a pedestrian and bike access route is preferable to anything else. So I'm glad that he came and thank him for that. I'd also like to thank the community members, the staff, the healthcare community, and everybody who's been working up front and kind of personal face-to-face on COVID. I'm of an age and I have underlying health conditions. My husband is even more of an age. I can't really safely do that, but I am overjoyed and grateful that everybody else has stepped up who can do so safely to address that community need. I would urge people to get a vaccine. There are people who are immunocompromised. There are people who are old who are at a greater risk. And I would ask you to help, I know, just saying, would help take care of each other in a situation like this. I've heard some concerns raised about the vaccine. You know, I understand that people may have difficulties. I would urge people to do whatever they can to keep themselves and their community safe. That's my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. I echo everything you said. We have a great staff at County Health. They've done a huge lift this whole time, and we have so many great volunteers that have been working these clinics, hundreds, like 300 volunteers, I believe, that have worked answering phones and at clinics. So we have a great deal of thanks for their hard work and diligence over the last few months, over the last year, really. Commissioner Webb.
Thank you for your attention to the NOHA presentation. We worked hard. I'm sure you have lots of other questions, etc. Please let me know, if there is more or other information that you would like to have, because we have a lot of information. It turns out that the previous staff just never shared any of it with us. And we're getting much closer to being able to report on more financial data, which I have wanted to talk to you all about for a long time. So thank you for your attention. A couple of meetings ago, Commissioner Thompson mentioned something at the meeting which she and I have talked about before, and that is our representation on the CCO. And I just barged into the Clackamas County Advisory Committee of the CCO, and so I'm on the list, and I go to their meetings now, and I'm very confused about what that group does, because it is primarily employees of the CCO. And I don't, and there were, at last night's meeting, there were also two members of the public who are on the Oregon Health Plan, which I thought was great. But there were other folks who weren't there. And I wonder, County Commissioner, County Manager, if we could maybe talk about this. I don't know whether this is the appropriate place, and it appears that CCO is doing a very good job of connecting with our staff. So I just wonder if this is a commissioner thing. I'd like a little bit more clarity on who's on the regional CCO board. I think Commissioner Thompson that was one of the things that you were objecting to, that we're not represented as a commission.
I'm concerned about that. I think it's appropriate, and I don't know, and perhaps the county manager knows. I don't know if there's any other county in Oregon that doesn't have a commissioner on the CCO board. It just seems odd to me. So over to the county manager.
Yeah. So I would just appreciate, maybe asking the county manager to look into this and recommending for us what we might do to become a little bit more involved as a board. So I know you've got plenty to do, but I think it's becoming increasingly important.
Chair Cuellar, Commissioner Webb, members of the board, if I could real quick, I will reach out to the CCO and have a conversation. I think that what it may ultimately require is the CCO coming to one of our work sessions and having a conversation. And so let me reach out to them and see if that is something that they would participate in. I just think it would just be good to have a meeting of the minds on that and to share the board's interest for being involved. So,
Mimi, the other issue with the CCO is that their staff is kind of spread out. Mimi Haley, who is the executive, I think is still working in Portland. Of course, we're not meeting, in person anyway, but I have no objection to any of my interactions with the CCO staff. They've all been terrific. It's just that I think that as a board, we need to be maybe more aware of what they're doing and suggest how we might input their decision making. So the other wonderful news I have to report is that today Commissioner Bangs and I met with the two new members of the Extension Service. And I requested this meeting, and I wish I could have invited all of you, but of course, only 2 commissioners at a time. But I definitely suggest that if any of you are interested, one of them is the new small farms agent. And I'm so excited to have her because I've been lobbying Wiley Thompson for 3 years to get us this position filled. And they've hired a wonderful person. And so we had a very robust discussion about small farms, et cetera. And then there's a newer member of the extension staff who is a fire expert, who has degrees from the 3 best colleges in America, at least land grant wise. Anyway, and Wiley actually came down from Cornwallis to join us this afternoon. And we really had a very robust meeting, talking about their programs and how we can interact with each other, et cetera, et cetera. And got a report actually on some of the work that the extension is doing. And I'm wondering if maybe we could set up some kind, like we do with CBH and some other folks, if we could set up some way of having them come to us occasionally with a report. I get particularly frustrated because I never have any action with Amanda Gladys, and I'm very interested in the seafood industry. So I wish there was once again, county manager, if we can just set up some communication channels or some way. This was such a rich discussion today. We learned a lot. And I even learned a lot about Commissioner Bangs, which was very cool too. So, I mean, since we haven't all been in a room together in a year, but could we just kind of work on that sort of extension service? As I know you all know that I'm a huge extension service fan. And I really consider them the teaching and research experts in this state and in our community. So just could we work? That's a little thing that can be number 101 on your list of things to do. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Toyoka.
I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Yes, wonderful. A couple things. One is just to preface it with our discussion with Jim Evans and Noha. I really appreciate the fact that he started his presentation with his mission and his statement of everything is a step towards self-sufficiency, and how they are emphasizing hand up, not hand out. That is a way of solving problems, not enabling and continuing problems. So I appreciate that very much, and the work that they're doing is very supportive of that mission, and it's very appreciated. Another one is a lot of constituent correspondence, especially the last couple weeks since the American Rescue Act monies have been in discussion. Bottom line is just we need to review and evaluate those monies as we are looking at not only the allocation of funds, but have to kind of review and validate the programs that we're looking at. Are they successful programs? Are we allocating towards successful programs that function and work, or are we just allocating to programs that because they're existing programs? Must have like verifiable results. That is kind of like the overriding thing that I've been hearing from constituents is that yes, these monies are available, but there are children's future tax dollars that are funding it. So we have to make sure that the programs are actually providing real results, not just feel-good results. And I think there is a difference. Secondly, another big topic, and I don't know how we address this as a board, how it affects Clatsup County is the Oregon Syringe Services Program, the needle exchange program, as we like to say. A lot of frustration with that. It precipitated one discussion. I went to a park nearby, and there was littered with needles. and their parents and everybody trying to find out why are there needles everywhere. And if they call it a needle exchange, don't they have to turn them in? And so we started delving into this with the police, called the police and talked to them about it. And there is a level of frustration with always having to pick up needles everywhere. So again, I guess under that same purview, do we review the program? Is it really effective? Is it achieving the desired results? Or are we just enabling another behavior and having these needles cause hazard to someone else, children or families, with, by having all these needles thrown around? Is there a different approach? Or are we funding the program properly in Clatsop County? Are we doing things right? So those are the questions I just wanted to bring up to the board, and maybe we can have further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. Commissioner Bangs.
Well, it's ironic that you just stated that, Commissioner Toyoka, just because as a parent with children at the park, that has been our experience also in Astoria recently. And it's a sad experience, and it's you have to, as a parent, take a very long conversation with your children on what not to pick up at the park. So, I would love to entertain a conversation regarding that, because it doesn't say that the situation, the exchange program is wrong, but maybe we can figure out a way to help problem solve this for our other community members, because the safety and well-being of our children and families and other people here are also under our perusal. So anyhow, that's totally squirreled off from my original message that I was going to share, but thank you, John. So a really robust conversation regarding childcare that Mark and I were able to, or Commissioner Quila and I were able to attend. I'm very excited. I feel like we are laying some wonderful groundwork for our future. I love that County Council can also be there to help support us throughout this journey. It is a giant elephant that we are going to have to eat one bite at a time. And I am excited to have developed more partners moving forward. And so good news to come, I hope and I pray that we will keep plodding forward in regards to our childcare situation that we have here in Clatsup County. I attended a soil and water conservation meeting, also a fair board meeting, and then there was the Board of Forestry meeting today, which I will be perusing along with many via video later on this evening. But I was excited to see, and this is just a very personal thought, I was excited to see Carla Chambers sitting in the Board of Forestry. For many of you who don't know me that well, she owns Stallbush Island Farm down in Corvallis, and I did my internship in college underneath of her, and I learned so much from her. And so it's just neat to see women rising, and especially such a good woman. Anyhow, that's beside the point. It was kind of a rodeo of choosing meetings for me this week, but Commissioner Webb invited me to meet and greet with our extension office and their new employees, and that was a wonderful conversation. Also, it was kind of right up my alley with my agriculture degree and talking about small farms and talking about value-added processing, and so it's very exciting to have such wonderful additions to our extension office and to sit down and have those discussions. So it's been a good week. It's been a good week, and I'm glad I'm able to share. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Bangs. And I echo your optimism about the child care task force. We've got the right people engaged. And I think that as we kind of develop the plan over the next few months, I'm very positive about that we can find some solutions. It's not an easy question we're trying to answer here, and what the best method is still yet to be proven. But we've got a lot of people that are very motivated right now to find some answers. So I am very encouraged by it. And I agree. Commissioner Webb mentioned about OSU Extension. I'd love to have Amanda Gladys. I think she'd relish the opportunity to come present in a work session. about the OSU extension. And I think we could open it up also to talk about the maritime industry in general. I mean, sometimes we don't ever, we always pay attention to what's going on our waterfront. And it is very impressive and a big economic driver and engine for Clatsup County. So I think that'd be a great opportunity. And Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. I have an addendum. Please forgive me. Hearing childcare triggered me. The Oregon Community Foundation included me and Dan Gaffney and Andrew from Craft 3 in a committee to allocate scholarship money that's for Clatsop County students. We reviewed 21 scholarships. I want to tell you, it just made me hungry to have more money to reward our students, because their achievements in overcoming personal challenges just made me want to do more. So I don't know where that fits in our work plan. I don't know if that's totally separate from it. But once again, Dan Gaffney, who's a community treasure in childcare and in all things related to education, is a wonderful partner in that regard. So we don't need more things to put on our strategic plan, but you know what? It would be a good thing to have an addendum, another tier for how do we coordinate improving the economic vitality of Clatsop County with a specific aim toward increasing the scholarship support available to local students who want to continue their development. It moved me to tears to read their stories. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And thank you, Commissioner Thompson. And a side note is that Oregon Community Foundation also is involved in childcare and has been supporting a model that's working. I can't remember what county it is, but has been working with another county and supporting their efforts. And Dan Gaffney, of course, is the guy. I'm so glad that he's kind of leading our group for the childcare effort. Commissioner Webb.
Could I ask for kind of a status report? Maybe not tonight, but on what the childcare efforts are that are, what the discussions are, et cetera. Because I guess I too support Commissioner Toyota's desire to start talking about where some of this infrastructure money is going. So I'd love a position paper on the childcare issues and what you all are talking about and what do we need and what's the infrastructure look like. And, I know that this is huge, but I'd love just a little report, or somebody send me minutes from the meeting, or I don't know. I just want to, because a lot of people are talking about it and I don't have any information to give back. So
I know Commissioner Banks. Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Let's get a couple more meetings behind under our belt, and I think we have something to present. Commissioner Banks.
I was just wondering, are our Go meetings that we are on being recorded? Because I don't know. I didn't know if they were being recorded or not.
No, they are not. But we can in the future. Yeah, we have the availability to, but we haven't been recording them.
I think at this point we've just been trying to get the right people together in the room, and this is a steering committee at this point. We will have a meeting at the end of July, which will be bringing the stakeholders all together. So as we've identified, I think 45 or so stakeholders within the community to have involved. But at this level, we're just meeting amongst 4 or 5 of us in a steering committee to kind of decide what's going to be presented at that meeting. So I think that July meeting will probably be the most appropriate time to make a report out.
Great, thanks.
Any other discussion? This has been a good liaison reports. We'll move on to county manager's report. Don.
Chair Quayler, members of the board, I'd just like to start first by congratulating all of the local graduates that are not only surviving 2020, 2021, but are really thriving in it. And so want to congratulate them, Monica's daughter being one, my son being one. So congratulations to all of them. I also want to thank, because on the budget, on the agenda today, we have the budget, and as the board knows, that takes a lot of work from every corner of the organization. And I just want to thank all the county staff that have been so diligently working on that over the last months. And then I also wanted to just let the board know that staff has been reaching out to the cities and nonprofits and Chart and many other folks to talk about the Clatsup funding plan for the American Rescue Act dollars, and we're getting a lot of great feedback. And so we will chronicle all of that and then come back to your board in July and have further conversations. So a lot of conversations and a lot of interest, and everybody has been very appreciative that we're reaching out and having those conversations. So, and that's all that I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, County Manager. We'll move on to our public hearings this evening. Our first public hearing is the adoption of the fiscal year 2021-2022 county budget, which is on page 252.
Thank you, Commissioner. So at the meeting on May 13th, the Clatsop County Budget Committee approved the 21-22 annual budget, and the board will now need to allow for a public hearing to receive public comments. Following the public comments, staff will be asking for the board to formally adopt the county's budget in compliance with local budget law. The resolution in order adopts the 21-22 county budget of $109,925,030. It imposes and categorizes the taxes provided for in the approved budget at the rate of 1.5338 per 1,000 of assessed value of all taxable property within Clatsop County for operations, and at the rate of 0.07 per 1,000 of assessed value for a local option levy. Also levies bonded debt in the amount of $1,404,940 and makes appropriations in accordance with local budget law. It reflects the budget as it was approved by the Budget Committee, with the exception of the following adjustments that have either been requested by the board or that staff is proposing as described and are within the limitations of ORS 294.456. Staff is recommending an increase of $50,000, and this is for capital purchases projects in the Special Projects Fund. This is necessary to complete the data fiber connection project that is taking place for the Sheriff's Office and the jail. It was budgeted in the current 2021 fiscal year, and the project has not yet been able to be completed. So we'll be asking to roll those funds into the next fiscal year and to have the appropriation authority there. We're also requesting an increase of $149,340. And this is in coronavirus relief funds for public health emergency preparedness in an effort to provide culturally responsive, low barrier access to COVID-19 vaccination, with special emphasis on populations that are experiencing vaccine inequity or reduced vaccination rates. This was previously approved in the consent calendar. So 50% is in the current fiscal year, and then the other 50% will be is being proposed for next fiscal year's budget. If the board wants to make any additional adjustments to the budget, the resolution will be revised accordingly. Oregon budget law does limit governing bodies to increase the improved budget expenditures to either $5,000 or 10% of the fund, whichever is greater. And adoption of this resolution represents the board's final action in the annual budget process. Any questions?
Any questions for County Manager? Commissioner Banks.
So I think that this might be a moment where the good business can be accomplished as long as there's decorum and respect, because I know that what I'm about to go about here might not be fully agreed upon, but I feel like it needs to be discussed. So In the budget committee meeting, I found a moment of concern where funds were allocated into the county manager's budget without a clear plan or use of those funds. Those funds were not requested by staff, and I felt it was uncharacteristic for which to address topics in their strategic plan. So bear with me for a moment, because it'll be okay. Historically, as we know, when the need appears within our county, a process or a plan is identified to solve the need. Once that process is identified, the staff comes before the board to request funds from our contingency. In following these traditional steps, we as a commission can protect our staff from scrutiny in regards to spending taxpayer dollars while also providing the consistent oversight, which is our job as elected officials. At the end of the day, we are accountable. And so the process felt a little bit incomplete, I guess, for lack of a better word. I'm very aware that this may seem like a minuscule concern, but in order to for me personally to feel more comfortable regarding that allocation and to hopefully retain the traditional protections that we provide our staff, I would like to make a motion if that is possible.
I think per protocol that we would actually go ahead and open the public hearing first,
Okay.
Correct? Have discussion. Am I right?
I'm deferring to council.
That would be traditional.
Okay.
Let's
Then
go ahead
I
and yeah, Commissioner Banks, if you want to reserve that, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing first, and then we can have a discussion following. So at this point, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public who have registered to speak?
Yes.
Okay. You have 2 minutes to speak, and who is first?
Linda Brim.
Linda? Linda Brim? I don't see.
If they are on their phone, they can push *6 to unmute themselves.
*6 to unmute. I don't see a phone call. And I don't see Linda's name up here. I see local resident as one of. Okay, we'll come back and maybe try Linda again here. Who's next to speak?
That's the only speaker that I know she really wanted to speak tonight because she had issues with the last time, so it's too bad. I'm not seeing her either.
No, I don't see her listed as one of the participants here. Commissioner Thompson?
Just a clarifying question, Mr. Chair. There is someone on the call on the meeting listed only as local resident. I'd be more comfortable having more information. That's a bit anonymous for me. I don't know what the law or the protocol is, but I'd ask as a courtesy for that person to identify themselves with their name. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Does local resident care to identify themselves? Apparently not. Okay, we don't have anyone to provide public comment. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. Is there any discussion? And Commissioner Bangs, you had a motion that you wanted to make.
I did, and it's basically just to circle back and hopefully retain our traditional protections for our staff. I move to require board approval of the enhanced communication support plan prior to expending the $150,000 budgeted into the county manager's office.
Okay. Motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, moved and seconded to acquire board approval before expenditure of $150,000 in the county manager's budget. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next, we need a motion on the budget.
So I have a motion, I think, that is written to, I'm going to wing it and see what happens. Okay, so I move that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for the 2021-22 by organizational unit, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, levying for bonded department, and making appropriations for Clatsup County as approved by the budget committee with board requests as well as staff recommended changes.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'd second that motion, Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. It's been moved and seconded that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for 2021-2022 by organizational unit, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, levying for bonded debt, and making appropriations for Clatsup County as approved by the budget committee, but with board requests as well as the staff recommended changes. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next is public hearing and adoption of fiscal year 2021-2022 budget for Clatsup County Road District Number 1. It's on page 260. And Assistant County Manager.
Thank you, Chair. At its meeting on May 21st, the Clatsop County Road District Number 1 Budget Committee approved the district's 2022 annual budget. The board will now need to allow for a hearing to receive public comments, and then following the public comments, staff is asking that the board formally adopt the County Road District Number 1 budget in accordance with local budget law. The attached resolution in order to adopt the 21-22 Clatsop County Road District Number 1 budget of $4,636,100 imposes and categorizes the taxes provided for at the rate of 1.0175 per 1,000 of assessed value of all taxable property within Clatsop County, and makes appropriations in accordance with Oregon local budget law. If the board wants to adjust the budget, the resolution will be revised accordingly in regards to $5,000 or 10% of the fund, whichever is greater.
Thank you, Monica. I'll at this time open the public hearing. Clerk of the board, are any members of the public registered to speak?
No, there are not.
Okay. If there's no one else that wants to speak, I don't see anybody, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And any discussion from the commission? Commissioner Banks.
I just wanted to take a moment. We all received the email from Ben Bartlett, and I just wanted to take a moment and just say that I really feel for him in this process, and with discussion with county manager on how to make this process next year for our budget committees a little easier to I understand is the wrong word, but a little bit easier to. Dawn, would you help me out on how to explain what I'm trying to say?
Well, Chair Quayla, Commissioner Bangs, you know, the budget process is a very complicated one, and the role of the budget committee can be confusing. And so what I think is always an opportunity is for us to spend some time with the budget committee members and going over roles and responsibilities and just some of the nuances of the budget process, which are honestly a little tricky at times and may not be totally intuitive. And so I think we will just redouble our efforts to really create an orientation for the budget committee members so that they feel supported as they invest this time. And, you know, it is a statutory process, and we truly appreciate everything that they do, but we will re-engage and support them.
And thank you for that, County Manager. I just really felt for him throughout his email, and I wanted us to be able to kind of acknowledge that in a public setting. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Banks, for addressing it, and thank you, County Manager. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Thompson would move that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for 2021-22 by organizational unit, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, and making appropriations for Clatsup County Road District Number 1 as approved by the Budget Committee.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for the 2021-2022 by organizational unit, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, and making appropriations for Clatsop County Road District Number 1 as approved by the Budget Committee. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll move on to the next public hearing. Public hearing and adoption of fiscal year 2021-2022 budget for Clatsop County 4-H and Extension Special District, page 265.
At the meeting on May 12th, the Clatsop County 4-H and Extension Special Service District Budget Committee approved the 21-22 annual budget. The board will now need to allow for a hearing to receive public comment. Following the comment, staff is asking the board to formally adopt the 4-H and Extension Special District budget in accordance with local budget law. The resolution and order adopting the 21-22 4-H and Extension Special Service District budget of $728,250 imposes and categorizes the taxes provided for in the approved budget at the rate of 0.0534 per 1,000 of assessed value of all taxable property within Clatsop County, and makes appropriations in accordance with Oregon local budget law and reflects the budget as approved by the Budget Committee.
All right, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Clerk of the board, are any members of the public registered to speak?
No, there are not.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And any discussion from the members of the commission?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Thompson would move that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for 2021-22 by organizational unit, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, and making appropriations for Clatsop County 4-H and Extension Special Service District budget as approved by the Budget Committee. With staff recommended changes, it says. So.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. The board approved the resolution adopting the budget for 2021-2022 by organizational unit, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, and making appropriations for Clatsop County 4-H and Extension Service Special District budget as approved by the Budget Committee with staff recommended changes. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll move on to the public hearing and adoption of fiscal year 2021-22 budget for Clatsop County Rural Law Enforcement District, which is on page 268.
At its meeting on May 12th, the Clatsop County Rural Law Enforcement District Budget Committee approved the district's 21-22 annual budget. The board will now need to allow for a hearing to receive public comment, and following public comment, formally adopt the Clatsop County Rural Law Enforcement District budget. The attached resolution and order adopts the 21-22 Clatsop County Rural Law Enforcement District budget in the amount of $5,079,220, imposes and categorizes the taxes provided for in the approved budget at the rate of 0.7195 per $1,000 of assessed value of all taxable property within Clatsop County, and makes appropriations in accordance with Oregon local budget law. It reflects the budget as approved by the Budget Committee, and there are no staff recommended changes.
Thank you, Assistant County Manager. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public who have registered to speak?
No, there are not.
Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Any discussion from the members of the commission? Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm concerned about the adequacy of the funding for the Rural Law Enforcement District. It's an ongoing concern from several years. The need only grows, particularly as we look at the impact on timber revenues from the Habitat Conservation Plan and other constraints on revenue. I'm not sure that we have any effective tools to respond to this, but I'd like to note for the public record that I have concerns, and I'd like us to be considering ways to enhance the funding for rural law enforcement. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Any other comments from the members of the commission? Commissioner Banks?
I just want to follow up and support Commissioner Thompson in her statements. I agree. I'd like to preempt the issue before it is here on our doorstep. And funding is a continuous issue for rural law enforcement, and so is, just making sure. I mean, we're a very large county with only a very few amount of deputies that serve such a large area, and it would be nice to be able to further look into this subject and hopefully support our sheriff's staff better in our future.
Thank you, Commissioner Banks. Commissioner Webb?
I'd like to support the previous comments that have been made. I think that the pandemic has shown us the extent to which our rural communities are isolated and often alone. We know from the folks who support our mental health services that domestic violence has increased significantly in rural areas and is extremely difficult when schools are not in session. It's extremely difficult to identify those because it's primarily in schools that we find out domestic violence issues. I also, in my time on the commission now, understand much more fully how much service our sheriff's deputies are expected to provide in the forests, and especially as we have issues with homelessness and increasingly homeless people relocating to the forests, which poses all kinds of public health issues as well as fire issues. So I'm really very pleased that Commissioner Thompson raised this issue. And I think that when I look at the federal funding coming down, I don't see a lot of streams with public services in mind. And I don't think we want a one-year tranche anyway. I think we need to really begin to address this. Remember that our rural population is growing faster than our urban population. And so the need for this coverage is only going to escalate. And I think we need to be thinking about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Very good points made by my fellow commissioners. Commissioner Toyoka also has his hand up.
Just one more thing to add to the other commissioners, my fellow commissioners. If you look at it, Commissioner Banks can appreciate we just went to county college and looked at all the statutes that the rural sheriff's departments have to uphold. And if we give a glimpse of all the duties and responsibilities of a rural sheriff, you can see that if the forecast, the impacts of ACP that Commissioner Thompson talked about, we will be severely under budgeted if we do not review that now and take proactive steps for the future. So I'm in agreement with the rest of my fellow commissioners.
Sounds like it's unanimous. Maybe we can add that to the rolling calendar of our work sessions coming up. But the question before us is the budget for 2022.
Well, Commissioner Quayla, with we discussed earlier, but for now, I would like to move that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for the 2021-2022 by organizational unit, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, and making appropriations for Clatsup County Rural Law Enforcement District as approved by the Budget Committee or as revised by the board.
Second, Commissioner
Moved and seconded that the board, thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Moved and seconded that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for 21-22 by organizational unit, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, and making appropriations for Clatsup County Rural Law Enforcement District as approved by the Budget Committee or as revised by the board. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, approved and adopted. We'll go ahead and move on to public hearing of fiscal year 2021-22 budget for Westport Sewer Service District, page 272.
At the meeting on May 12th, the Westport Sewer Service District Budget Committee approved the district's 21-22 annual budget. The board will now need to allow the opportunity for public comment, and following the public comment, formally adopt the Westport Sewer Service District budget in accordance with local budget law. The attached resolution and order adopts the 21-22 Westport Sewer Service District budget of $248,160 and makes appropriations in accordance with Oregon's local budget law. It reflects the budget as approved by the Budget Committee with no proposed adjustment.
Thank you, Assistant County Manager. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Clerk of the board, are any members of the public registered to speak?
No, there are not.
Okay, we'll go ahead. If I don't see anybody else, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. Any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'd love to make the motion, Commissioner Thompson, but I'm plugged into the wall and I can't move to my desk. Will you carry it for me?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, it was your distance. I knew you cared. All right, I move that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for 2021-22 by organizational unit and making appropriations for the Westport Sewer Service District as approved by the Budget Committee or as revised by the board.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for the 2021-22 by organizational unit and making appropriations for Westport Sewer Service District as approved by the Budget Committee or as revised by the board. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, approved. That is all of our public hearings this evening. We'll go ahead and move to the business agenda. We have the fiscal year 2021-22 Community Development Work Plan on page 277. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to our Community Development Director, Henriksen.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'll keep my presentation very brief. This is the same work plan that we discussed at your May 18th work session. The only changes that we've made is at the request of Commissioner Toyuka, we did add an additional column into the land use planning work plan to identify possible partners who would work with us to accomplish those projects. The plan was presented first in March to your board, and then it went to the Planning Commission in April and came back to you last month as well. And we're asking you to approve the work plan for fiscal year 21-22, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Commissioner Banks.
I'm sorry, your audio for me cut out on the add-in from Commissioner Toyoka. Could you repeat that, please?
Yes, Commissioner. So at the May 18th workshop, Commissioner Toyoka had asked if we could add a column to list some of the potential partners who would be working with us on these projects. And so I did add that column in.
Thank you.
Commissioner Webb.
As usual, Gail, this is terrific. I think it's beautifully written. I think it's beautifully formatted. In some respects, I'd almost like to see something like this submitted by all of our major departments because it's really, it's a wonderful planning document coming from the planners who would expect less than that. But I just found it wonderful. And I thought the addition of identifying partners was brilliant. I really, I guess some of our frustrations with the CCO and that we talked about earlier, we need to be identifying those folks and to make sure that we're all in the room. I think it's terrific. I think it's absolutely terrific. And if you would enter, are you ready for a motion? Or I'll just
Absolutely. Yes.
I would like to move the adoption or the acceptance. What's the verb here that I should be using?
Move to approve.
Move to approve. Okay. I would like to move to approve the community development work plan for 2021-22. And congratulate the staff for putting together such a really useful document.
I'd second, understanding that the phrase including the land use planning work plan is
the community development. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the community development work plan, including the land use planning work plan, just to put it on the record right, because I'm sure that's what you meant, right?
Of course. Thank you, Commissioner Thompson.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the fiscal year 2021-22 community development work plan, including the land use planning work plan. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll go ahead and move to the good of the order. Thank you, Gail. Does anyone have anything for the good of the order? Well, we will adjourn as Board of Commissioners, but we do have a Clatsup County Housing Authority meeting following this. So we'll adjourn as the Board of Commissioners, and we will re-adjourn or re-emerge as the governing body for the Clatsop County Housing.
5-minute break.
Sure, 5-minute break.
Thank you.
I'm going to stop the recording, Commissioner Quila, and then we can start it again for the Housing Authority.
All right. Thank you, Teresa.